Now we'd like to go back to Dr. Ken Fong, who is the chair of APAPA's governing board, for another introduction.
Our last speaker is Andrew Yan, and I know there's almost midnight there in the East Coast, and I'm sorry about that. It's all look like a 2-day meeting for you, Andrew. Sorry about this. And I want to introduce Andrew Yan to you. I have the distinct pleasure to introduce my good friend Andrew Yan. I have known Andrew for almost 2 years when he started to run for the U.S. presidency. Right now, Andrew is perhaps one of the most visible political figures in our nation, and definitely the only Asian American who has made history thus far to run for the highest office in our nation. Not only is he the most visible political figure in our nation, he has a wealth of ideas our nation needs to run a new economy. If you go to Yan Speaks, a podcast, well-known podcast, you will see a lot of exchange of ideas between Andrew and many national figures in our country. Please join me in welcoming Andrew Yan. Andrew.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the APAPA Symposium on the Future of Leadership. Congratulations on being here today. Just your being here means that you care deeply about the future of our country and our world, and you want to make a positive difference. Now, many of you are Asian American, like me. You probably know I ran for president in this last cycle. If you did it, my campaign must have done a bad job reaching you. And people ask me all the time whether when I was growing up, I thought that I might run for president. And the honest answer is, of course not. I'm Asian. I grew up the son of immigrants. And no one in the Yang household was saying, you're going to be president someday, or you're going to run for president. It was more like, get good grades, finish your food, clean your room, and try not to be a burden on society. So growing up, I did not think that politics was really something I would head towards. And my family did not talk about politics much at all. I have a feeling that your family might be somewhat similar. So how did I wind up running for president then? And many of you are thinking to yourselves like that you might go into public service or perhaps run for office at some point. And for me, it was the culmination of years and years of experiences. So I want to rewind to when I was coming out of college. I certainly wasn't remarkable in terms of my ambition or vision for myself or the world at that point. I just wanted to get good grades, get further my education because my family really valued education very deeply. My brother is getting his PhD, which is, I think, just about the biggest degree that there is in terms of academic accomplishment. So I went to law school, and then I spent 5 unhappy months as a lawyer. And then I left to start a company that did not work out. And my parents told their friends I was still a lawyer. They thought that was an easier story than failed entrepreneur. And so at that point, really, things were very tough. I owed $100,000 in law school loans, and I didn't know what my next steps were going to be. So that was me in my mid-20s. It was not like, oh, this is a person who's going to be on some kind of established path. If someone saw me at that point, they would think, well, I'm not sure what this person's future holds. And in my case, I worked at a series of startups. I became the head of an education company that grew to become quite successful and was then bought by a bigger company in 2009. Now, at this point, I started heading towards public service because I became convinced that we needed to help more young people in particular accomplish your entrepreneurial ambitions. And having failed as an entrepreneur myself in my 20s, I knew how tough it was and is, to actually carve your own path. So I started a nonprofit, Venture for America, to help train and develop entrepreneurs around the country. And this was my feel-good, give-back move. Many people wait to do that on the side or when they're done or in the tail end of their careers. in my case, it was like mid-career, and I said, well, I might as well just try and do something really positive now. And I feel for my now wife, Evelyn, because she and I got together when I was like a fairly normal business guy, and then I became this nonprofit guy, somewhere in the middle. So I worked on this nonprofit venture for America for 6 years. It grew to become quite successful, but I realized a few things. One was that our economy was heading in a direction that was going to be disastrous for many, many Americans. And now today, with the COVID-19 pandemic, we're seeing many of these trends accelerate much, much faster. And so it was really an outgrowth of Venture for America that I said that, okay, how are we going to actually prepare the United States of America for some of the changes that are coming? And I did not see a realistic way to do that did not involve something big, like running for president. That's how I decided to run for president. It was after a decade or more of experiences that led me to identify a problem that I was passionate about. In my case, the fact that our economy was going to kick out more and more people over time. And then there was a solution I had identified, in my case, universal basic income, that would help our country manage this transition. And so that's how I ended up running for president, is because I was so driven by the potential, at least, to accelerate a solution to a problem that I thought was going to tear this country apart over time. Now, I'm happy to say my presidential run surpassed many people's expectations. Thank you to everyone at APAPA and anyone who's watching this that supported me in my campaign. I was very proud to be the first Asian American man to run for president as a Democrat in American history. And when I was deciding to run, I did have a goal or an image in my mind of being the lone Asian American, or one of the only Asian Americans on the big debate stage, because I thought about what that would mean to Asian American boys and girls around the country looking at their TV set and saying, oh wow, we can run for president, because we can run for president. And that was one of the goals I'd set for myself, was to be able to set that standard, to let folks know that there is no limit to what we can do in this country. And I relate my trajectory in part to share some big lessons as to how you too can lead in your own communities, and certainly does not need to necessarily be something as grandiose as running for president initially. It certainly was not for me when I was at your age and stage. So the first big thing really is to try and find something that you're driven to solve or passionate about addressing in your community. And that when you start acting to solve that problem, then you will experience what it is to lead other people in that direction. Like, you have to care about something really to lead. If you care just about leading, then that's not really like going to actually, gather many people to your side. You know what I mean? Like, in my case, it was the dehumanization of our economy and the need for solutions. And there were some other things I stood for. In your case, it could be a food drive in your community, or immigrant rights, or activism around a social issue that you're passionate about. As long as you identify something that you are trying to improve or solve for, then that's actually the first step of leadership, just caring about something. And you do not need to be the leader or founder or CEO or whatever it is. A lot of the time, real leadership involves serving. And so in your case, if you identify an organization that you're able to help, even by volunteering, like, that actually is leadership itself. And you'll see when you do volunteer or help another organization that people around you will see you do it and want to help you. So much of this is about caring, really. Caring about something in your community that you want to improve on and solve. And right now, as you can tell, there is no shortage of problems in our communities. We're on the precipice of a new Great Depression that is being driven by this pandemic. 40 million Americans filed for unemployment claims, and economists say that 42% of the jobs that have been lost are gone forever. This is going to be a disaster for tens of millions of Americans. It already is. We can see that California is already shutting down again, and this crisis will roll on and on for months. So right now, there are so many problems that need your help. And it's really by taking action that you will find your own leadership potential. That's really the guidepost for my talk today, is really just to find something that you care about and then act on it. And if you do that, you will find yourself leading by example, regardless of your position in the particular food drive or organization. You don't need to be the founder. You don't need to be one of the first people on the scene. You just need to do everything you can. One of the things I'm so proud about is that now I believe that more people in our community see that this country needs what we have to offer more than ever. That this crisis is a crucible, it's a proving ground for our country. And America is not doing well right now. America is in crisis. There are racial protests that are still ravaging many towns and communities over police brutality. And the issues of race are very, very real and pressing in American life. And Asian Americans, I believe, have a very distinct role to play and an important role to play, where we have to help bring the country together and say, look, these issues affect us all, and that we can, in some ways, empathize with people of color, Black people who are the worst victims of some of the police brutality issues and structural racism of various institutions around the country. We can say, look, we understand, and we can help pull us all together. That this country needs what we have to offer, our energy, our ingenuity, our passion, our activism, our humanity, more than it ever has before. When I was growing up, my dad was an engineer for IBM. He invented things. And when I was old enough to figure out what a patent was, I went to him one day and I asked him, how much do you get paid when you devise a patent? And I thought it was going to be a lot of money because it just seemed like so important. And he said to me something like $500. And I said, that does not seem like very much. And then he said, well, I also get a salary so I can feed, house, and clothe you and your brother. And I share that story in part because I think that everyone won by my dad's immigrating to this country and doing what he did for GE and IBM. I thought it was a great deal for America that he devised 69 US patents over his career. But it was also a great deal for me, my brother, and my family. That American dream worked. But I also remember a time when my father came back from the office very, very bad, or the lab, because he was a lab geek. And I asked him why he was so angry. And he told me that in America or in IBM, when you can't invent anything anymore, they make you a manager. And so he said that the lab consisted of all Chinese engineers and then white managers above them. I must have been maybe 14 or 15 years old when he told me this story. And it stuck with me. I mean, you don't know if it's true or not because you're a teenager, but you hear it from your father. And that was one of the things that gave me the sense that many of you might have if you grew up Asian American in this country. And it's the sense that Asian Americans are allowed to be this successful in America, but we're not allowed to be this successful. That we're allowed to be around, but we're not allowed to be the leaders, the CEOs, the president, the person that others look to for inspiration. And that was something that I set out to change with my campaign, to let people know that Asian Americans are just as smart, patriotic, innovative, just as capable of leading at the highest levels of American life as anyone else in the country. And that's what I'm saying to you all today, is that you are as capable of leading this country in the right direction as anyone else. And I know that you're going to demonstrate just that in the days, months, and years to come. So congratulations to you all for wanting to make positive changes in our country, in our world. I know you'll do just that. Congratulations to APAPA for all that you do to rally and organize our community. Incredibly grateful to everyone who I know in APAPA because I have so much to be grateful for. Have a great rest of the symposium, and let's make our nation and our world proud. Let's show them what we can do. Thank you all so much. Appreciate the heck out of you.